The ultimate football fan is now here.
All the biggest fan channels in one place.
Next night's down.
100% Chelsea.
Arsenal Fan TV.
All about the fans.
Why is he on the fucking pitch? What for what?
Exclusive content only here.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to
The UFF Daily Football Show.
The number one source, everything going on in the football world, daily.
UFF. Do what you have to do.
Hello and welcome to FanPark Live's head-to-head specials brought to you by UFF and History. I'm Adam Charles. I'm joined by...
Oh, I'm Terry Flewers. Good evening, everyone.
Well done. And...
Chris Kane, touchline fracker, about to do it again.
Really?
Another debate, one again.
Are you feeling fresh?
Already.
Terry, are you ready?
I've been kicked out the host seat today.
You have?
So yeah, it's nice to actually not... Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I normally host. It's nice to be involved properly with the show.
Sit back and enjoy the ride.
Yes,
it's
man.
going to be crazy. I think he's ready for it.
Okay, let's do it.
So the reason we are hosting these shows is because there's going to be 24/7 football documentaries and films from Monday the 28th of May with hashtag History of Football on History. So make sure you go and check that out. What we will be debating tonight is which is the most exciting league. And that's which is the most exciting league. The English Premier League or La Liga? That is the question. What side are you arguing for?
Me. I'm all about La Liga today.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're doing this.
Terry, that means you're obviously arguing for the English
Premier League all day long.
Okay, so what we're going to do is give each of you 2 minutes to debate your points. Get your points out, say what you have to say, convince the viewers why it is La Liga is the best league or the English Premier League, and then we'll go to some calls, we'll look at some videos from the other influencers, YouTube influencers around the world, and see what they have to say. But who wants to start? I'm going to open it out.
Let me start this. Let me start today. Well,
Okay.
The
He's
question,
very confident. Very confident.
Yeah. The question really isn't what's the most exciting league. The question is which is the better league. And if you're going to measure how good a league is, you have to. The number one variable you have to use is the actual quality. Like who has the best teams. Mm-hmm. And there is no statistical data. There's nothing objective that suggests that the Premier League has the best leagues. If you're talking about the top 3 sides, if you're talking about the top 6 sides, even if you're looking at the gap between the best sides and the bottom sides of the last 10 years, because you don't want to just take last season into consideration, not even last 3 years, I've actually looked at last 10 years, and whether it be Champions League performances, whether it be Europa League performances, whether it be UEFA coefficients, whether it be the amount of Spanish teams that you see in the quarterfinals of all of those competitions, because that's the only way you can really measure which has the better sides.
Okay.
It's who's done what in Europe, because it's fair, and even more specifically, what's the head-to-head like in terms of the Spanish teams that play the English leagues when it comes to Europa League and the Champions League. And ultimately, yes, Real Madrid have been doing their thing for a long time. Barcelona have been doing their thing for the whole time.
That's correct.
But if it's only about, because that's what a lot of people say. A lot of people will say it's a 2-horse race every year. Atletico Madrid have come into the fold the last 4 or 5 years. Well, that doesn't explain why Seville have done what they've done. Doesn't explain why Villarreal, Valencia, and just generally speaking, why Spanish teams find more success in Europe and find more success in the heads-to-heads. I've actually looked at some of the stats, and I mean, listen, we're ready. We're ready. In terms of head-to-head, so if we look at the last 10 years, so I'm going from the 2007 to 2008 season. This is just one small one, and I'm going to get into more detail later. Premier League teams have got a total 25 wins against Spanish teams, while Spanish teams have actually got in total 32 wins, and there's about 20 odd draws. So if you look at that, if you look at the coefficients, the league has never ever finished outside of the top 2 in terms of the leagues. Premier League had a little bit of a domination in the late 2000s, maybe early 2000s, but it's always been La Liga either number 1 or number 2. The Premier League's actually fallen out of the top 2. So I want to know what you use to measure if the Premier League is a better league than La Liga. That's what I want to know.
And you've tried to bring objective evidence using the coefficients, looking at that.
Look at results, trophies, semi-final appearances, however you want to call it. La Liga, like, they dominate.
Okay. Terry, your rebuttal.
So, I think the biggest thing to point out for everyone watching, everyone listening out there is that this is the debate about what is the most exciting league. That's the premise that has been set.
Yes.
And if you want to call it the best, we'll hold people to that. So no doubt that the Spanish sides play wonderful football. The quality of football is great when you watch it. And that's the biggest point, though. If it's the best and if it's the most exciting, why, in comparison to the Premier League, is nobody globally watching it? That's the point that I make to anyone out there who's backing it. 14% reduction in TV views in Spain, just in their homeland country, a 14% reduction in the Spanish public watching their own leagues. On any given weekend, Premier League viewing figures globally are at 12 million. La Liga is at 2.2 million. In fact, this debate should be changed to which is the most exciting league between the English Championship and La Liga, because the Championship gets more viewing figures and more people physically go to Championship games than La Liga games. So that's first and foremost. And then you look at the global figures. Just over £2.2 billion a year is spent by international TV firms for rights to watch the Premier League football. 500 million spent on La Liga. The simple fact is more people tune in to watch it, which means it's more lucrative. The reason that people are watching it almost at 4 times the rate nationally and nearly 6 times the rate internationally is because it's more exciting, it's more enthralling. An example I would give, and I'd ask anyone out there to do this off the top of their head without going on to... Actually, you do Google this. Google Premier League top 25 or not even 25. Google iconic Premier League moments and you get a list of things. You get Hansen saying kids won't win anything, Suarez and Patrice Evra, Suarez biting, George Graham being sacked, Beckham's halfway line kick, Tony Adams scoring the winning goal for Arsenal, Henry's volley against United. Google La Liga iconic moments. First 4 pages, I searched it myself. It's all about El Clasico and Real Madrid and Barcelona. Not a mention of another club within that league. And this is what we've got to look outside of. It's not just about how good Barcelona and Real Madrid are. They are amazing. We know they are. That isn't the debate. El Clasico is actually the most watched football match in the world, factually. But outside of that, if you walk up to a person in the street, even if they defend La Liga, and say to them, tell me what's been going on with Villarreal recently. Tell me what's been happening at Deportivo. They can't tell you. You ask them if they're football fans about what's going on at West Brom, what's been going on at Middlesbrough, what's been going on at Leeds in the last decade, they'll tell you. More exciting, more popular, more views. It comes down to me, it's not even debatable. The Premier League is more exciting and it's the best league simply because more people watch it.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Some interesting points there. Very well made by both of you. Guys, don't forget, you can have your say. Make sure you call us on 0203 606 0315. We also want your comments because we'll be going through those later today. So make sure you comment on the various platforms that this is streaming on. And also make sure you vote on the poll, the Ultimate Football Fan poll. Which league is better, La Liga or Premier League? Currently, I'm afraid to say, Chris, the Premier League is winning 85% to 15%.
I mean, I wish those kind of numbers were translated in the actual performances on the pitch, which is ultimately where you judge football, right?
Hello, here he is.
Yeah, it is. Ultimately, that's where you judge football, right?
But no, we're not judging it. If it was which league had the best clubs or which league plays the best football, I would sit here and say La Liga. I would agree with that. Up until now, though, because you made the point about going far in competitions. This year, England had 2 teams in the semis and obviously 1 in the final. I would now say that Man City are playing as good a football as anybody in Spain. Liverpool are playing as good a football as anybody in Spain. And then you've got the other teams. You've got Spurs, who are not far away from reaching that level. Your team, Arsenal, I think with a new manager, are going to be back to that level again. Man United, the style of football ain't going to be nowhere near it, but they're going to become, they're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to come back. Those things at swings and roundabouts, it was Italy in the 90s. Man United came back in the noughties, in the mid-noughties. La Liga's been dominating that. When it comes down to the best league, it's how many... If La Liga was that good, okay, they'd get more people watching.
All right. There's time.
Yeah, we'll do this.
Guys, as I said, make sure you call in because we want to hear what you have to say. We're going to go to some videos now from the influencers, so make sure you stay tuned because we will be right back to carry on debating which is the best Premier League team.
It depends on how the question's worded. If it means what's more entertaining, I think the Premier League's way more entertaining. I think the Premier League's way more unpredictable and way more exciting. In terms of the level, I believe the gap between the top and the bottom of the Premier League is smaller than the gap between the top and the bottom of La Liga. So it's just crazy. The different styles of football, I think technically the players in La Liga are of a higher standard. But at the same time, I think tactically the teams in La Liga are very very naive.
I think the Premier League is better than La Liga, and I think it's more exciting than La Liga. The reason why I think that is because it's very unpredictable. In Spain, you know what you're going to get. In England, you don't really know what you're going to get. The bottom teams in Spain, they don't really do nothing towards the top teams in Spain. In England, it's very unpredictable. The bottom teams can beat the top teams. The last time there was a back-to-back Premier League winner was 10 seasons ago, and 10 seasons is a very long time. And honestly, I do not believe La Liga can produce a championship winning side like Leicester City. In Europe, there's 5 or 6 teams from the Premier League that can do well in Europe, unlike 2 or 3 from Spain.
For me, it has to be the Premier League. I'm an advocate of Premier League football. I love the way it's played, end to end. You never know what to expect. Who's going to get relegated? Who's going to win in Premier League? Who's going to finish in the top 4? Who's going to win the Europa League? If you ask people at the start of the season who you think is going to win it, most of the time they're probably going to be wrong in terms of especially who's going down and who's going to end up at the top.
I'm going to have to say that the Premier League for me is better, and I'm going to base it on a few things. One, because basically bigger stars in the Premier League, more money pumped into it realistically, more promo, it's promoted a lot more English, so we get to see a lot more of it as well. But I find it's more competitive, more entertaining to watch, whereas La Liga I don't find as exciting, and it's usually the top teams are normally the same, so I think that's a reason for me.
Real Madrid or Barcelona will win that La Liga next season. No danger about it. We've here, well, I suppose here, United, it's between United, City, Liverpool, Spurs. You never know what Chelsea out there going to do, and Arsenal. You never know what's going to happen with them this season, you know. So
for you, definitely the Premier League.
No, I doubt. There's no word of a lie that it's the most watched Premier League. It's the most watched league in the world for a reason, because we go to teams like Burnley, draw and get beat and do shit like that. You know what I mean?
It's crazy because it depends which way you look at it. For me personally, the Premier League is way more exciting. Way more exciting. You get curveballs in the Premier League. It's fast. It's ferocious. You need to have serious strength and stamina to be able to play in this league. But the Spanish league has just got that finesse. There's just something cute. There's something sexy about Spanish football. It's just better on the eye. So it just depends which way you want to look at it. Personally, I do like the rough and readiness of the Premier League. And maybe I'm being biased because I'm English, but I just love the fact that Burnley can beat Man United.
So guys, you heard the various views there. You have to make up your own minds. I'm not sure. There's a lot of people in the comments saying that, Chris, you're wrong. But I think you made some great points.
I love that.
There's a lot of people saying that Terry just came with facts. We're going to read through some of the comments quickly, starting with A96A or A. I don't know how the hell you say your name. That's wrong. The reason why the Premier League is the most viewed around the world is because of the selling points of the Premier League. It has nothing to do with excitement. And we'll wait. Again, people saying that you're wrong. People saying La Liga is dead. Nothing else. But people also saying that Barcelona would dominate the Premier League. So that would I don't know. But I'm going to ask you a question, Chris.
Sure.
Why is it that Barcelona and Real Madrid, if the league is so good, why is it that they dominate? And why is it that teams, let's say Getafe or Valladolid, can't beat Barcelona and Real Madrid, whereas Burnley could quite easily beat any of the top 6 teams?
Well, you got to look at just the finance. You can't remove the commercial aspect of it, and obviously the part that plays in what they can do. But ultimately, the conversation has to be around the quality of what you see on the football pitch. Like, if this argument could be attacked in various ways. Like I said, if you're talking about most exciting, most competitive, that's a different conversation in my opinion. But we're talking about the quality of each league.
Actually, we're talking about the excitement.
Well, I mean, I was under the impression we're talking about how good the league is.
So are you trying to shift the goalpost?
No, I'm not trying to shift the goalpost.
I think so.
But the question is right there.
So.
Like verbatim, read the question out to me.
See, it says which league is better, but we've set the premise here tonight. Which is most exciting?
Okay, so you can't.
That was on the brief that was sent out to us by email.
Wow.
Too. I will say that.
I mean,
I'm just asking the question.
Listen, I'm going by what we're asking the fans. Which league is better, right? So, but if you're talking about Barcelona and Real Madrid, going back to your question, they're able to do that because ultimately they're giving more money through the TV rights, and that allows them to dominate in a way that a team can't do that over here. I think what you can't take away from the discussion as well is obviously we're talking about the English Premier League. We are an export kind of culture in terms of our football. We bring in players a lot, and we're able to negotiate and to create these deals in a way that because even Serie A at its peak didn't have the commercial value that the Premier League had back then, and Premier League, and even back then, it didn't. We know it was a better league. We know it was a better league, but again, the English culture, the way we approach business, no other nation can really compete.
Do you have a question for Terry, or do you have a rebuttal?
On the commerciality, I understand where you're coming from, but there's some factors that play into that. So what makes the Premier League so unique again is the atmospheres at our stadiums. The fact that, I mean, it's become even better in the last few years. We are the only top flight elite league in the world where the bookies, and gambling is a big part of sport as well. The bookies have the top 6 sides all with reasonable odds at the start of the season to win the Premier League. Nowhere else has that. I think that Portugal maybe has 3. But if you go to Germany, if you go to Italy, if you go to La Liga, what we're talking about, the facts remain that it's 2 teams have got favourable odds. Everybody else is such a long shot. We're the only elite level league in Europe that's had, in a decade, nobody has retained the Premier League title. So what you get with us, and that's to talk about the excitement, is that a team's great one year, they drop off the next. And that's not good for that individual team. We all attack them on FanPark Live. We have banter with those fans on Twitter, but that makes it more exciting. You kind of, interestingly this year, like, you look at Real Madrid, the way they've fallen away a little bit. This is like panic stations, because it doesn't happen to Real Madrid what happened to them at the start of the season. And that is for me, like, if that happened more regularly in the Liga, I think more people would tune in.
But you say that, but Real Madrid aren't perennial. They may compete because they may come second, but Barcelona have actually dominated the competition. Obviously, you may say that's one team, but at the same time, surely if teams from our country were that good, because I'm gonna keep on bringing it back to you have to use what you see on the pitch as the number one indicator of quality, and that would translate. If our teams were better, not only forget the top 6, because I think it's very clear that the top 6 in Spain are better than the top 6 in England. I think it's very, very clear. The stats are there in terms of what they do in Europe. So let's talk about the actual teams below that. We would see more of them in Europe if it was that competitive. Wow. There's actually a bigger spread of Spanish teams that compete in Europe than there are in England.
But I think I understand what you're saying, and I think on the head-to-heads, I think they do beat them. I think the biggest issue is, and it's now starting to change, refereeing. The way refereeing's changed. I'll tell you one thing we moan about in England. Why is that tackle? It could be a crunching hard tackle, wins the ball. We're now giving fouls for it. That's starting to evolve us more into a European game. If you watch the Championship playoffs, like I've been doing the last few days, Premier League referees are looking after those games. They let far more go. Watch it when your club, next year Arsenal, plays in the 3rd round of the FA Cup against a League 2 side. Tackles are let go in there, and challenges in the air are let go in those games because they're more what we call British style of football. Where the Premier League has struggled, I think, in Europe in the last 8 or 9 years has been the fact that it's become like basketball, a lot less contact. Diving is more and more acceptable.
Terry.
And no, I mean it. And I think that, but the way we play football in England, it's now starting to evolve again. Now, like the same way that the likes of Arsene Wenger evolved it initially in the 90s, it's now happening again with Pep Guardiola, with Jurgen Klopp. You've got some British managers that are trying to do it as well. You look at what Bournemouth are doing, where they're trying to play that more European style. Not ironically. The likes of City and Liverpool have now started to compete again because they're playing that more European style of football. So you're right, the style of football technically is better. My issue would be at the moment is I'm worried about Man City becoming so good and dominant because of their finances that we end up becoming a one-horse race and everybody else is fighting out for the top 4. That will make us less exciting. What you've got hope for next year again is City starve and have a bit of a blip at the beginning. You know, Spurs go on a great run. Chelsea are backfiring. And when I'm looking at the Premier League as an overall commodity, that's what I think is more unpredictable and more exciting about us than anyone else, is that you don't know next year who is going to win it.
But surely then it goes back to what you value in terms of quality. Do you value competitiveness? Because even if you say, okay, the Premier League is more competitive because it's unpredictable, well, if you go through the last 10 years, I won't include this season because the La Liga's got 1 game left, so it may shift. But in terms of the gap between 1st and 20th, there was a bigger gap in 07-08 in the Premier League. There was a bigger gap the following season. There's a big gap in the season after that. And overall, it's 6-4 in La Liga's favour in terms of the bigger gaps between who finished 1st and finished 20th. But in terms of running that narrative of, teams, but anything outside of Atletico, Barcelona, and Real Madrid is just dross. Well, surely if we're gonna judge a league by like its bottom team, because I feel like that's what we have to start doing. It isn't about the top 6 anymore. It's actually about 7th to 20th. Well, if you actually look at the numbers, La Liga's gap isn't as big as people think it is.
Yeah.
And it
I get that.
tends to take record-breaking
And
seasons.
I just want to say one thing on that. I understand that. The point is, anyone out there that's fighting for La Liga, if I started asking you questions about, tell me what's going on at that club, tell me about their great games. If I even said now, give me the top 25, give me 20 iconic moments in La Liga, even someone defending La Liga is going to pretty much name Barcelona and Real Madrid moments.
But
because
hold on.
it's not, when we talk about most exciting, it's there's stuff within the Premier League. Even people that prefer La Liga on technical issues still know more about what's going on in the Premier League because we're bigger and we're better.
Hold on, guys. Please, I have to emphasize, please call in 0203 606 0315. We do want to speak to you. But Terry, I do have to ask a question. Surely a league that has the two best players in the world, the two most exciting players in the world, the two most exciting teams in Europe, is by default the most exciting league.
Because you're looking at those two teams, and those two teams as standalone are amazing. They're up there, the best two teams in the world. Not just, I think if you forget like win ratios, in the last 10 years they've been the best two teams. I don't think anyone would deny that, and they're amazing. But we're talking about the league. I'm not sitting there talking about my club, Man United, or Arsenal specifically, or
but they're in the league, Terry.
They're in the league, but I'm talking about the collective league as an overall package. And it's not just the teams. It's the refereeing. It's the advertising. It's the way in which the TV shows are put on. It's the way the fans feel. The English Premier League has the highest demand of international ticket sales from around the world. So people from all over the globe, Europe, the Baltics, Scandinavia, America, the Asias, the South, they want to come and watch the Premier League more than any other league. Why? And look, Messi and Ronaldo, they dominate. I mean, when they go as well, by the way, when both those two have played a massive part in those two teams being so good in the last 10 years, when those two have finished playing football, there'll be an instant change because they're arguably the greatest two players of all time, especially in the last 30, 40 years.
Not even arguable.
Yeah. So you've got this situation where all of that, everything you've said about La Liga, how great it is, the technical stuff, how they beat a lot of the English teams, I agree with you. But still, it's not as exciting and as enthralling and as attractive as the Premier League. If it was, they'd get more people turn up to watch it, they'd earn more money, they'd have bigger TV figures. In their own country alone, in a small country, 47 million people, a reduction of 14% of people watching it.
Well, if you have again, a lot of it has to do with what's happened economically in Spain. Spain is in the shits economically.
Yeah,
so
but a lot.
Pardon my language.
But it's free to watch football over there. A lot of the TV stations show their league football is free, so they're not cancelling their version of Sky. They're just not watching it because they're not enthralled. They don't have the same feeling for football that we do. And it's their national. And they're a club that they're a country that has won the World Cup and Euros in recent times, and their viewing figures for their national sport, which they're amazing at, is declining. England just keeps getting bigger and bigger because our leagues are more enthralling, there's more passion, there's better atmosphere. This year, who knows who's going to win the league this year? We'll all say City, but none of us really know.
For me, it's a flawed statement to say, because at the end of the day, the competitiveness comes from the fact that there isn't a dominant team or a couple of teams in England, right? Okay. And the reason why it's so up and down is, if anything, because of a lack of quality and a lack of consistency. We can't punish La Liga as a league because the best teams just so happen to be quality on a more regular basis than they are in England. Yeah. At the end of the day, like I said, if the quality of the league was not as good in terms of the actual football, because we're taking it to commercial values and viewing figures and refereeing and whatnot. That's all great. That's all well and dandy. But at the end of players, when they talk about the players that have played in both countries, they will say, yeah, it's more unpredictable, it's more intense, they love the atmosphere, but the best players want to go to Spain.
Ultimately,
part of that is the prestige of.
Wait, hold on. I think that's going to change.
Part of that is the prestige. Part of that is the prestige of obviously Real Madrid and Barcelona. No one talks about going to Atletico Madrid or Valencia or Villarreal. Yeah. But at the end of the day, in terms of judging themselves as players and elevating their game, they know it isn't just about going to those two teams. It's because that is the standard of how I'm going to get judged as a player.
And I get that, but my argument still comes back to it. And the commerciality plays a part. The commerciality is a result of the fact that the Premier League is more exciting. If everything you're saying is true about La Liga, the quality, the best players, it's the pinnacle. Why are more people globally, forget nationally, just globally not watching it?
For me,
like it should be more entertaining.
That's more to do with the business.
I just want to say, Terry, apparently it's not free to watch all over in Spain, as someone who is in Spain has said. Adam Brown, and they said you're talking bollocks.
That's fine. I read that on the internet. If you want to show me I'm wrong, absolutely fine.
Sorry,
but I've still got a 14%.
No one. Listen, I won't argue with you in terms of how much people want to watch it and the entertainment value of it, right? But entertainment doesn't necessarily equate to quality, and ultimately. That's what.
Well, I keep
that's
getting
what I have to
told.
judge on.
I keep getting told that Jose Mourinho needs to be sacked because football is, at the end of the day, it's an entertainment sport. It's there to entertain. If Spanish football and the Spanish league is that good, why are they losing viewing figures, and why are people more inclined to pay 4 times the amount of money for English football as they are Spanish football? If it's that much better, if it entertains more, if it's more enthralling, if the football's better, if the best players are there. The facts of the matter are, there's 2 great sides that are playing in an average collective league. That's why the Premier League dominates.
Final point before we go to some callers.
Even you take it outside of Real Madrid and Barcelona, teams do not want to play. City is changing to a degree, and that's because of Pep. And guess where Pep's from? And where he made his name. But football teams look to La Liga, they look to Spain, and outside of those 2 teams in terms of how to play the game, those are the teams that compete and win and succeed. Not even just head to head against English teams, but they whack up Italy on a regular basis. They whack up German teams on a regular basis. France are a non-factor. So ultimately, again, the question is, which is the better league? You can have your different standards. Not every fan has to look at football the same. So I give that to fans. But in terms of the ultimate standard, listen, there's elite level, and Spain has demonstrated that over the last 10 years. Again, there's no data on the football pitch that says differently.
Okay, we're going to take some calls. Jivan, hit me. Oh, there we go. Hello, it's through to FanPark Live. What's your name?
My name's Luke.
Hello, Luke. Who do you support?
I support Tottenham.
All right, boo. So who do you want to talk to, Chris or Terry?
I don't want to sound racist, but the white guy.
Nah, don't worry. It's not racist. Don't worry. The guy who's supporting the English Premier League. Go on, say what you have to say.
In the blue t-shirt.
I mean, you could have said that.
That's
fine. Don't worry.
I should have said that. Sorry.
Don't worry.
I completely agree with you. If the Prem wasn't as entertaining, if the Prem wasn't the most entertaining and competitive league in the world, then it wouldn't be the most watched league in the world. I completely agree with that point. Yeah.
But again, my bro, the question isn't what's the most entertaining league. Otherwise, that's what would have been on the. I hear what you guys are saying, but I'm not the one shifting the goalposts. It's literally on the laptop.
But it is about entertainment. If the football
entertainment is
better,
hold on.
If it was better, more people would watch it.
Hold on. Entertainment is part of it.
Entertainment. People want to be entertained. If it's more entertaining, more people watch it.
So wait, you support Tottenham, right?
Yeah.
So if you were a more entertaining side, what would you rather have? Be an entertaining side or win?
Win.
Okay. And how do you judge what's better? The team. Who do you judge as the better team? The team that entertains or the team that wins?
The team that wins.
All right, there you go.
Thank you very much for calling. I think you've been trumped. You know what? Well done.
So he's a Spurs fan as well, so I had extra vim.
Go on.
I need to show you. So I need to do this because when I spout stuff, I've just lost it. I've lost the page. I'll get it back in a second.
There is someone that said it used to be free, just in your defence. So Terry's not lying.
I mean, it could be the case. It could be the case.
It could be. We don't know. We'll have to verify that afterwards.
But like at the same time, it's just like Sky Sports, BT, all of these big companies, they have a massive presence coming from England, and all of that helps. Like people don't go to Spain for business, just generally speaking, across industries, especially in entertainment. So there's a massive advantage that.
Apparently, Sky don't share La Liga.
Exactly.
Aha! Really? Why have they dropped La Liga? Because no one. I don't know what camera I'm looking at. No one watches it.
Hold on. That's because English people have a better association to English teams. That's not necessarily.
Okay, but if it was that, hang on. But then why do I watch every Champions League game?
That's a great point.
So this is what I say to people. Most people watch Barcelona and Real Madrid in the Champions League in this country. If La Liga was that good, as a collective commodity.
You can't compare intercontinental competition to a domestic competition because it has completely different nuances. Better. It has completely different nuances. The quality of football in Champions League is the number one in the world. That's including the World Cup, including La Liga, including the Premier League.
Yeah, I
so
agree.
that's the number one reason why it is the most watched.
Yeah.
But it's also where you're going to get all the stars are spread across Europe in terms of the top teams anyway. So PSG, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, for the English teams.
yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, but
your point is because we're English, we have an affinity. Then why did the Scandinavians, the Americans, the South Americans, the Asians, the Australians, why did they choose the Premier League over the Liga?
There's every argument.
They're not English.
There's every argument to say that's because the Premier League has been described before by Sky as the greatest league in the world. Everybody knows the effect that the media.
You're talking about international. You're talking about international TV companies that will bring in the football that's going to get the most viewers. That way they can charge the advertiser the most amount of money. Again, that would work 1 year. If you were buying a rubbish product and you package it up and you did loads of it, the TV companies would go bust. We've seen it in England when ITV Digital went out. And what was that other one? Was it Santander? Not Santander. Setanta. Do you remember Setanta? Yeah. They tried packaging it and they went bankrupt. This would happen. But with the Premier League, they ain't going bankrupt because that is a commodity that sells. So I was in America. More.
Wait. We've got to take another
sorry,
call.
just do the call. Just do the call.
Hello, you're through to FanPark Live. What's your name and who do you want to speak to?
My name is Yash and I'll speak to all of you guys.
All right, go on. What do you have to say?
I know I've got a minute, so I'm trying to make it quick, but without a shadow of a doubt, the Premier League is much better than the Liga.
Thank you, brother.
And why do you say that?
I think because if you think about it, the three teams that have been relegated just now, Swansea, Stoke, and West Brom, you'd really associate them as Premier League regulars. So who would you relegate? And the new boys, they've all stepped up. If you think about Arsenal and their midfield crisis, we have so many attacking midfielders. Which one do you play on the day? That's the same with who would be relegated. And in terms of the Liga, the only thing that matters is who's at the top of the league, whether it's Barca, Real Madrid, or Atletico. You know, because nobody cares who's gone. It's who's.
That's because you don't like.
But listen,
but it would if more popular.
No one watches a league. Right, you have to understand the power of language here.
Semantics.
Yes. English is the #1 spoken country in the world, and that isn't just to do with words. It also translates to art, media, business. Ultimately, people come to England to enjoy things. It doesn't necessarily mean we're the best at it. It just means that we have the most overall. It just means that we have the most overall appeal. And that's a reason why if you come to London clubs, for example, and come to our stadiums, where you have the most expensive, it's because it isn't just about what happens on the pitch. But again, if we're talking about what is better, what is better? You cannot say that La Liga teams Premier League teams are better than La Liga teams.
Sir, do you have anything to add finally?
I do. I have one thing that I don't think anybody's mentioned on the show, but one big question when a topic like this comes up is why is it these Spanish teams seem to do really well in the Champions League compared to British teams? And I think I have an answer.
You're the host. You're meant to be
that's a great question, though.
But I can answer
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
That
is actually a really good question.
But I kind of brought it up. I think that the European game is more conducive to... I know England is in Europe. Forget the EU stuff. Don't want to throw in nonsense.
Hashtag
but we're not.
Brexit means
Brexit. But when we're part of the EU, we're not. England, we're England and it's Europe. We always say we're different currency and plugs.
All right. Let's not get too deep.
No, we are facts. I think we've got to evolve our game more to be conducive with the way the Champions League is. And I always, even international football, I always remember your great British centre forward. The reason they become unpopular, especially on a world scale, is you can't bully players anymore. You can't be barging people over. You can't be climbing all over someone. You can't even touch or breathe on someone. And I think that as our football evolves, the likes of Pep and Klopp are going to be very good for our national game. Because I think you're going to see a different England playing a different way. We're already teaching our kids to play differently at the academies now. It's much more European based because the European football has changed. It will take 5 or 6, 7 years, but we will eventually catch up.
Do you know, you say that, but Atletico Madrid probably play the most physical brand of football in Europe at the moment.
But they still
wait, hold on. Let me finish. There is no team in England that play more physically or take on more physicality than Atletico Madrid, and they've been in more European finals, be it Champions League and Europa League, than any English club. So as much as you want to say, okay,
no, their football still.
Hold on. At the end of the day,
this is what
happened, right? The Premier League had a degree of physicality that teams around Europe couldn't match. Those teams caught up and had the technical ability behind it and had the tactical ability behind it. Mm-hmm. The quality of the Premier League is why they don't seem to get as far in European competitions as La Liga. So until that becomes the case, then we can't say that this is the reason why there's a lack of physicality, or they have. This is the real reason why Premier League teams don't do as well in Europe. Come December, La Liga teams won't play more than 4 or 5 games in that whole calendar month. Premier League teams will play double that. And then they've said it.
That,
coaches have said it. Coaches that coach that.
I understand that point.
And that's sacrificing competitive quality for commercial value. And maybe it's
commercial maybe, but the Christmas period has been around since well before.
Yeah, it's culture. It's part
of that culture, and it's part of the commercial bit is there. It makes a lot of money, but it's been there before the commerciality. What I would say though is about the English teams. An English team won the Europa League last year, and an English team could win the Champions League this year. So that means we'd have had two different European champions in the last 2 years. We are starting to catch them back up again. These things go in cycles.
They do go in cycles, but we can't use even if. Let's say Arsenal had beaten Atletico Madrid and have gone on to win the final, and let's say Liverpool go on to win the final, right? It still doesn't change the pattern. Like, because
of course it does.
No. One season doesn't change the pattern.
There's 2
seasons. 2 to 3 seasons changes the pattern.
But we're in a process where it's changing.
You know, Real Madrid can be on the verge of winning a completely unprecedented in the modern era 3-peat.
I know they can.
Right?
I know they can.
And Atletico Madrid may end up winning the Europa League as well. So as much as you can say, okay, we're about to change, well, 2 Spanish teams could easily continue the trend.
Catching them.
But you do recognise that having the best team doesn't mean, and as we have to go back to the ultimate premise of the show.
Good question. I've already anticipated that. I'm of the believer that iron sharpens iron.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. This guy tried to go biblical.
No. There's real talk. Iron sharpens iron, right? So the quality of those 2 teams is probably a result of how good La Liga is, as opposed to they just having more money than everyone else. Because again, take Real Madrid out of the conversation. I still have Atletico Madrid that are very successful in Europe. I still got Sevilla who.
But we take Man City and Man United.
And on that point, I've sat here.
So why are Chelsea the only team that have done anything in Europe? Or why did the last time Liverpool were in a Europa League final, they got beat by a Spanish team? Why is that same Spanish team the team that beat the team that's second place in our current Premier League season? They got knocked out by a team that's 4th or 5th in La Liga right now.
But results like that happen in football. Results like that happen in football. So look, you can look at standalone results and say why. But in the last 2 years, the end results are English teams are doing better now in Europe than we were the previous 3 or 4 years before that. What I would go back to, and your point of iron sharpens iron, I get that. And the quality of football in the Liga is amazing. No doubt about it. But when it comes down to what we're talking about, the best league, the most exciting league, the most entertaining league, however you want to frame it, if the Liga's football was so good, and if the league was so good as people try and make it out to be, it would get more people domestically. It would get more people internationally watching it. It would excite more people. The Spanish public are falling out of love with it to a point where they're not even going to as many games.
Final point.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the fans, because I'm not talking about the fans enough, right? Luke is the perfect example, right? We talk about the most exciting team or whatever, but ultimately, everyone wants to win. Mm-hmm. So you gave people the choice of, do you know what? It being like a duopoly, with their team being involved in that, and how exciting they'd feel to go to games or to watch games live, knowing that their team is going to be doing bits. If they rather have that, or what's currently happening, where, do you know what, we may compete one season, they may end up 6th the following season, I know which one they're going to choose. So those same fans that are tuning in to watch all of those the Premier League games, they would drop at a second if they could be Atletico Madrid, or if they could be Real Madrid, or if they could be Barcelona. And for me, it's just a case of fans complaining about, if my team can't win consistently, then the second tier option after that is, I follow the most exciting league in the world. No, you want to follow the best team in the world.
Guys, I'm sorry, but we do have to leave.
We're wrapping it up, yeah.
Guys, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I'm gonna pick a woman. Don't you worry. I think based on the arguments that I've heard here, I have to give it to Terry. I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
But the only reason I'm giving it to Terry is because I don't feel like you stuck to the premise of the debate. But that being said, you did make some very good points. You did make some excellent points.
I got blindsided.
You're to be commended for that. So very well done to you.
Hey, listen, man. Hey, you saw the question. What is the better league?
Yeah, I don't know. I
didn't see no exciting league, even in the brief, even in the email.
You didn't see it in the brief.
All right, listen. I'll send the receipts. I'll put out the receipts on the Twitter on the Twitter account, and then you'll see what was really.
I've got them too.
What was really said. Okay, cool. We'll do that.
No worries, guys. Let us know if you agree. Thank you very much for the callers that called in. Thank you for the commenters that were on YouTube. Make sure you go to the UFF Twitter page and vote. The poll is still open, I believe, and currently.
Sorry, just get it here. May 15th for the Liga versus Premier League in brackets. most exciting league that was emailed to us all.
Yeah.
I'm
going by what's.
I don't know who did this. I really don't know.
You did your research before that Twitter poll was created. Because this guy was on WhatsApp today going, I'm going to smash it tonight.
Boy.
Yeah, you did a good job, bro. Quality, man. I love that.
That's like the white black guy thing right there.
That's really awkward. Cut the show. Thank you for watching, guys. It's been great.
That was a good one, man.
Yeah, quality, man.
Good one.